Welcome to EnPhase, In Tune with Autism, the podcast. I'm your host, Eileen Email. Together, we're shifting away from old paradigms and stepping into a new way of thinking when it comes to relating to the non-speaking autistic population. One that presumes competence in the intellect, acknowledges the brain-body disconnect, and honors the profound spiritual roles that these individuals may be playing in our rising consciousness as a human race. It's time to connect with our intuition and get truly in phase. Let's begin. Hello, and welcome to the EnPhase In Tune with Autism, the podcast. My name is Eileen Email, and I am your host. And this is the co-host of this series that I'm about to discuss. His name is Blake. He's my husband. So I started this EnPhase podcast, I think it was in 2020. I'd have to go back and see, but we're doing a reboot of it. I really want to streamline the ideas and the concepts that I believe are so important in this movement that is going on within the non-speaking autism community and in the ways that we're serving them in terms of treatment and really just family life as well, all the ways. Because a lot has changed. What I like to call old paradigm thinking is what we've all been doing before we actually knew what was going on with these individuals. And there's more and more research coming out now, and a lot of things are changing. And the biggest change is, and I'll just go ahead and explain that for anybody who isn't familiar, or if you're kind of familiar and you're still learning. Old paradigm thinking was these non-speaking autistic are pretty low cognitively. They don't understand very much, and you have to speak very simply with them, slowly with them. And what we're finding out now is that that is not the case. These are people who have what's called whole body apraxia, and that's where they can't control their body as a neurotypical person would. So they don't just have direct access to moving the way that they want to move. So purposeful movement can be really hard. And I'm going to do 3 different series. And in one of the series, I'm going to be discussing a lot of that. And that's going to be discussing the brain-body disconnect, discussing apraxia, and what's now called presuming competence, which is the new paradigm thinking, which is understanding fully that these non-speaking autistics are there and they understand at an average or above average level many of times. And the difference is, or what's going on, is that they can't actually control their body with ease. Okay, so that's going to be one of the series: brain body disconnect, presuming competence, understanding that the mind and body are 2 different things. Another series that I'm going to be doing is with this reboot is a spiritual series. Going along in this journey, it's so deep, and it gets very, very personal for me, but we do tea every Saturday almost, and we get into these amazing conversations. Blake is a chiropractor, and we always get into these conversations where we're dreaming for the future of autism. And he knows a lot about the nervous system, a lot about health, and you'll see. But getting back to the series piece, so the second series I'll be doing is a spiritual series. And like I said, on my own journey, what I've just really come to understand is that who we are inside is very different from our bodies and what we've been conditioned to be in our bodies. And so that's going to be a whole series. So stay tuned for that if you're finding yourself on that journey, because many people who have non-speaking autistic children do find themselves on that journey. But today, what we're talking about, this 3rd series, is dreaming for the future of non-speaking autistics. In so many ways, I've been in this career for years now, and I've been around it my whole life. I have a younger brother who has special needs, and so I've always been around the autism world with all the therapies and that he's gone to and the school that he went to. And what I know is that it can feel really hard. It can feel really hard and really frustrating, and it always feels like you're hitting a wall or throwing spaghetti at the wall and not really putting your energy and your resources where it matters, where it's really going to benefit you and benefit your child. Me and my husband, we talk about it, and we're just like, this is how it needs to be done. This is where our energy needs to be put. This is what we need to think about in order to really help the person, the individual and the family, and to give the body what it needs. Yeah, so this series is Dreaming for the Future of Autism, putting our energy where it matters, and us just getting into conversation about that. Welcome to the podcast, Blake, my husband.
Thanks, babe. It's great to be here.
Yeah.
Know what exactly you want to talk about with everything today. What comes to mind as you're speaking, and I guess where I come into some of this is that there's a lot of overlap with what's going on in your world and what goes on in my world in terms of our professional capacities and the way that we see things. Because, like you mentioned, there's old paradigm and new paradigm thinking, and everything that I do as a chiropractor when it comes to health is an attempt to approach a new paradigm where we think about health differently. We think about really everything in our lives differently because we recognize that the way that we've come to live is out of sync with how things naturally want to be in the
Mhm.
natural order of things. So, really, it's about establishing that balance in a way where we can grow and flourish, the way that we're meant to.
Right.
So knowing that the way that things are set up is not conducive to like good, full health and thriving, we have to now create a better balance,
hmm Yeah, a better balance.
for everyday individual's health, but also especially in the population that you serve, the non-speaking autistic people.
Right. Right. We're very surface level right now because this is Reboot episode 1, and we're kind of just trying to get into the groove, but we feel this topic very deeply, and we feel like we understand that we've all been conditioned to think a certain way of like how we need to help these kids progress. Obviously, if we're talking about non-speaking autistics, how we need to help them progress. And there's such an energy of like a rush around it and such a lack energy, like something's wrong with the child. We got to get them in, ABA or whatever it is as quickly as possible because there's that window. And I just want to say, from my experience being in the game so long and really understanding at a deep level what I was talking about, the new paradigm, which I believe is the truth, that these kids are full blown understanding everything, but they just have a nervous system that works differently, a sensory system. Experiencing things at a very, very high caliber, perceiving so many things that other people may not be perceiving. And so their systems work differently. I want to acknowledge the worry and understand that worrying is natural, but not to perpetuate this. Let's run and fix this problem. It's like, okay, let's sit with what we got here. And all I need to do is open my mind to understand what is best for this population or my child and walk forward towards those things, because the way that I've felt things, and I've taught classes on this before, and this is not something that I just decided one day to believe. This is what I felt like outside information was just coming to me as if it was the truth, as if like I knew this in my being.
What you were talking about is you feel like the way we look at autism now is like a go, go, go rush, gotta fix it, gotta solve it
Mm,
sort of problem.
right.
Where I mean, it seems like where you were going with it is that we need to almost take a more relaxed approach to it. I
hmm
don't know, maybe that's not the right way to really characterize it as like a relaxed approach, but maybe just perceiving it in a way where
Yeah, it's opening up to the possibility that it's purposeful and it's not on accident. And it is a very challenging experience in the modern world that we have. It's doing its role in expanding. So this goes to like the rise of consciousness that is happening. It's like they are playing a huge role in expanding people's consciousness.
even though this isn't like the spiritual
This
series, I
isn't
think it's
this
important to
isn't. Yeah.
understand a piece of that information because if things are going to be different in the future, you
Mhm.
have to have a different base understanding, a different
Right,
model
because
in your mind about how it
exactly,
works.
because in this series of dreaming for the future for autism, the people who I see leading this type of movement are gonna be people who are kind of marrying the other two series. They understand that these are expansive souls who can handle their experience, who have come here to be in the role of the non-speaking autism person in contact with other people who are there relying on to believe in them without words, to see them for who they are beyond all the body stuff, and to show up every day understanding that, but also understanding that they are human too, and they're in the 3D body and they need physical help every day. Yes, the future for dreaming for autism, it's like I need and I see people who are going to deeply understand both of those concepts, that we honor the person inside and they are not their body, but they have bodies and they deal with A to Z challenges. And they need people who are in their power, in their integrity, who are leading them and guiding them in their 3D body experience and giving them the skills that they need to be able to expand and flourish here. And, those people who are going to be doing that, they are rising to the occasion of expansion in capital T trust, capital F faith, because you're going beyond everything that you've been conditioned to think, because we've all been conditioned to think, oh, what we see on the outside, like that's what it is, and we're our bodies, and we're really getting to the point where we need to understand to go past the conditioning, past the body, and that's what they're teaching us to do. And in order for things like the letterboards to work, in order for that relationship to work, you need to hold that vibration of true faith. And that's what we're learning with them. And so dreaming for the future of autism, that's like the foundation. That's the foundation, right?
Yeah. What I feel like is when you talk about care or help or therapies or whatever
Mhm.
that an autistic person might need in the future, or like the way that it should be, is that it's not just for that person. Like if you have a whole family and one person is non-speaking autistic, they're not the only one that needs therapy or help. And
Mhm.
when I say therapy, I don't mean like you need to go see a psychiatrist or anything like that, but just recognizing that every member of the family, every member of the community needs to recognize some of the things that you're talking about. And they also need to do work to the point where they can be in the right state to
Mm.
provide the right kind of support, right?
Mhm.
Just like you're talking about, like with working with some of the parents and helping them get on the boards, it could be such a difficult process with all the shame and the grief and the guilt that's
Mhm.
likely felt underneath, even without knowing about it.
That's right.
It's like
That's right.
the way
And
forward
mhm.
is well, parents need to be engaged in that process too for themselves.
Yes.
Like they don't just need to be able to bring them to the right provider, to
Now
be
bringing them to
provided
the right
for as well
provider
too.
might be a step.
For sure.
All this, there's no rush on this either. It's all a process, but 100%, it's about the whole family. And it's not like, oh no, I got to do this. I'm not being in the right state now, so this sucks.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, oh, this is the opportunity for expansion. This is the occasion that I need to rise to. And, getting the right support and guidance and community can help you get there. And I think that that's their role. That's what they're bringing out of people. And they're bringing all of the shit to the surface.
And
They
they,
truly
you mean
are.
like
I'm
non-speaking
talking like the
autistic people?
non-speaking autistic community, and I'm
Yeah.
being very general, but with every single client that I've worked with, they have, of course, expanded me and expanded their families. And, what you're talking about being in the right state. So if the spelling relationship isn't working, the only thing that's standing between you and that working truly is energetic blocks. That's it. Like it's just energy that needs to be acknowledged and moved and transmuted in a certain way. The way to get there is going to be healing. That's bringing it back to the spiritual piece. They're bringing up the ways in which we need to heal. Yeah, because it's not that they don't want to do it. And that's a big thing that I want people to start opening
By
up
do it,
to.
you mean like
Right. That it's not that they don't want to spell. It's that the energy is too much and they don't have access to their motor to spell. And so that energy needs to be alchemized, looked at, transmuted, felt, you know?
Yeah, what I think about that is
Mm-hmm.
like if you're out and about and you're gone longer than I expect you to be, and
Hmm.
then I start getting like anxious, like where's Eileen? Like something happened to her, whatever. And I want to like hang out, be relaxed by myself, maybe watch a show or something like that. But because I'm so anxious, it's like I can't watch the
Hmm.
show,
Hmm.
like I can't relax myself enough to watch the video because I'm so
You're so
concerned
concerned.
that you're on
Right.
these rainy roads and something's going on, and I think we all experience that kind of thing.
Right.
But that's what I feel like what you're talking about. Like if the anxiety levels, the stress levels are too high, I
Hmm.
won't be in a state to be able to demonstrate the abilities that I have of initiating motor patterns the right way. You
True.
know?
I mean, that's such a good example. And that's the boat that a lot of parents are in. And there's no shame around that. It's a very normal hill that the parents need to cross. And it's different when you're the provider, the practitioner, because it's not your child. You don't have that attachment to it. Oh,
So what you're saying is that sometimes as a parent, spelling doesn't come as easy as it does with your kid and a provider or somebody who they don't have prior history with. That's
100%.
what you're saying.
It most likely won't come as easily. Every now and then I'll have a client who can just jump on the board with their kids, but it's not always like that, and there's no shame around that. And I believe that in that way, there's some healing that needs to be done there that people are being called to, or some space for it. Because, we've all been just 100% conditioned to not feel our emotions. So our repression mechanisms are on point.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that we all get into our groove, our way of being. Like just like if we drive unconsciously to a place we've driven to 1,000 times without ever remembering that we had to stop at a red light and turn and brake and accelerate. Same thing, the way that we live our lives, including the way that we feel emotions, the way that we communicate with other people. We often don't realize that we're experiencing stress or that we're out of normal regulation or that we're doing these things in a state of worry or anxiety, et cetera, or that we're
So
afraid or
true.
that we feel hurt by somebody else. And we don't bring it up because we've been so conditioned to never feel those things,
That's
never look at
right.
those things. But it's still
Mm.
there. And it's still there in your relationship with your kid. It's still there in your relationship with your significant others, all that good stuff.
It's still there, and that energy's still there, and it's gonna show up as a block in some ways
Yeah, and this is true for
for
everybody,
everybody.
everybody, every family, every relationship.
Mhm. Yeah, what a lot of what they're doing here, again, it feels like we're coming back to the spiritual sense, but I know that it's important, is that they're bringing up what we can't see. The energy that we feel and our motor systems just like shut it down. Like I could be so pissed off right now, but you won't even know it if I'm just biting my tongue and sitting here. So that truth is not being expressed, it's not being moved, it's just being stuck there and it's like reverberating. These kids can't just stick the energy down. They can't just stop it. They're expressing the energy. The energy is moving through their body. And that goes for all sensory information, like sounds that our body's just integrating with our system that we don't even pay attention to. They're probably expressing sound with their body. They can't just stop it. It's opening up to understanding what's actually going on with their body and not putting the social meaning on it too.
Like with us, with our neurotypical daughter, if we're out in public and she's behaving a certain way, it's like
Mhm.
we want her to, hey, stay within the social norms,
Right.
as hard as it is to do. And even for her, she can control her body. Sometimes she chooses not to. So it's easy to get
Chooses
frustrated,
not to.
But there's a certain amount of like freedom you want to give your kids in general. And in the
Mhm.
case of a non-speaking autistic kid, that's exceptionally hard.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
because and it's shifting to a new way. It's like, okay, I know you understand what I'm saying. And I
Right.
know that you might not even want to do what you're doing right now. If
Mhm.
it's hurting yourself or somebody else or whatever. Or
Mhm.
even if it just feels embarrassing out in public
Yeah.
with whatever's going on. So that's a lot to work through for
It's
sure.
it's a lot.
It's
It's a
hard
lot
for
to work
me to
through.
like really imagine what it's like being in that position. So that to make the shift that we're talking about, like presumed competence, and to almost look past what it appears on the surface, that's
Right.
tough.
You have to train yourself to unlearn every meaning that you've put on what somebody's body is doing. And you have to really just go in dreaming for the future of non-speaking autistics. I want people to be able to understand this deeply. You go in with the intention to connect with that person who is on the inside. There is an awareness, there is a whole person who is on the inside who's not able to be conditioned by the social norms because their body will not allow them to do that. And so it's like everything that their body's doing, like don't put meaning on it because it can be so many different things.
I don't know how far you want to get into this sort of thing
Mhm.
because it's not necessarily this series that you're talking about.
Mhm.
But I was thinking about like reflexes. Like if you think about with the way that like the nervous system is set up, the only part of your nervous system that is related to your conscious perception of stuff is the outer surface of your brain, your cortex, where you can be consciously aware of what you're seeing, what you're sensing, consciously aware of how you're going to move, how you're going to decide to
Mhm.
do things in your body. You can still move without the conscious part of your brain lighting up,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? And the
Mhm.
classic example is like a reflex, like tapping your knee and doing that.
Yep.
That all happens before that information, the
Is in your
sense.
conscious
Yeah,
awareness.
before the
Yeah.
sense, like when you
Mhm.
tap your knee, that sensation stops in your spinal cord and then goes back down to move your muscles,
Mm.
you know? And your whole digestive system, all of your organs, all of that motion, that's still movement. All of that happens below the level of conscious awareness and
Mm.
understanding. And that's what you're talking about. You want your ability to move consciously and voluntarily to be more under direct control. But a
Yeah.
lot of times in these kids, it's more like reflexive movement all over the place.
It's
The body
reflexive.
is conditioned
Mhm.
below the level of conscious awareness, and that's what you're going to see most of the
Mhm.
time. And that's why some of the things that you're doing when you're spelling, like prompting and doing the sensations around the hands, fingers, wrists, shoulders. It's a way that the conscious part of the brain can see the body a bit better,
Right.
so that now I can tap into a little
Mhm.
bit more.
You're training the connection to the body in real time intentionally, and that the child knows that you're
Yeah.
doing that too. So you're literally helping connect. So you're going to be regulated. That's like really important. And I feel like we're jumping all over so many topics
Oh
because there's
yeah.
so much to talk about. But when you're regulated, your brain can be in that state where neuroplasticity can happen and it can form new pathways. And so you're connecting brain to the body and you're increasing that conscious control, which is so important. It's the most important to me. It's one of the big places that we should have our energy in these guys' day, in school life,
Are
in
you
therapy life, and home
the
life.
big place being like a place of coming back into regulation, getting out of
A
fight
pl-
or flight? Is that what
mm,
you're?
yeah, because these kids are so easily, some of them have very down regulated nervous systems where it's hard to even get them to move.
I got another example
Hmm.
for you about how that kind of thing works. Like if you imagine you go into like a haunted house. Like, even though you know it's not real, you're still a little bit on edge, you know? You got that heightened, your heart's racing a
Hmm.
little bit more, your nervous system is in fight or flight, so that when you hear a noise, your whole body moves before you even think about
Oh,
it.
yeah.
You reflexively respond to whatever's
Hmm.
happening in your environment. So we all
Bingo.
experience that every day, you
Bingo.
know? And
Hmm.
the only way that's not gonna happen is if you can be in that heightened, stressful environment,
Hmm.
but your nervous system is in like a relaxed, I'm safe sort of space. And
Right.
then when that same noise happens, you're not going to jump the same way. Your body's not going to reflexively respond in the same way. So it's almost like non-speaking autistics are in the haunted house all the time
They are.
because
A
there's
lot of
too
them
much
are.
input or
Too
there's
much
too
input.
dysregulated input and not
So many
enough,
people who don't understand them,
yeah,
so that anxiety is high.
not
Yeah,
enough practice
not
in their
enough
nervous
practice.
system of coming back down to
Not enough.
regulation, to safety, to all that good stuff.
Right. Not enough coaching from the point of view of what's actually happening, which is I understand that you can't control your body and I'm here to help you. I'm here to coach you and to build conscious control. That's what needs to happen.
The standard of care, I guess, is like really ABA therapy, which is supposed to
That's
be
the standard
behavior
of care.
modification, which is supposed to be like reinforcement, reinforcing the patterns in the body. But a lot of learning happens with modeling. So we go back to the being in a regulated state when you're with your kid or whatever it is, and that's going to reflect in their nervous system as well.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of what we see is, let's say they're in that high beta brainwave state a lot. So they're in like fight or flight, basically, or flee. That's like your elopement, right? And so there is either reflexive movement and not just, and I can give an example of this. One of my clients is in this state very often. And if you're not coming in, connecting with his conscious motor, and you're just going in without any awareness about it, and his whole system, his amygdala, is controlling his body from that fight or flight state, he's in that reflexive mode. If you just walk in his awareness, he's going to hit you. He doesn't consciously mean to hit you, which most people would think, oh, he's being bad, he's hitting you. Like I saw that in the school system. That's not right. It's not true. He cannot control it when he's in that state. So there's reflexiveness, there's impulsiveness, which is like just high momentous movement, very strong and fast. And that's just a stimulus in the environment, eliciting their body. Like, let's say somebody has a drink and that's the stimulus, they're impulsing to put their finger in the drink, right? Then there's conditioned movements, which can happen a lot in ABA, where it's, you're conditioning a response with the outside reinforcement. So it's kind of like, I'm asking you a question, I want you to answer. So they just answer so they can get the good job, you did it or whatever. So a lot of kids saying yes or no, like that's not purposeful because they've just been so conditioned to respond. And whatever sound they had access to, that's what they would give. And, that is a deep rabbit hole that we
Yeah.
could get
I'm
into.
thinking
But
about, like, if somebody tells you something, but you didn't really hear 'em, and you're like, "Yeah."
yes. Oh, yeah.
Even though I
That
didn't hear you.
happens a lot. And so you can see those conditioned movements a lot. And then when you're in this work and you're understanding from the point of view of truth, which I believe is obviously new paradigm thinking, they're understanding everything, comprehending everything. They can't control their bodies. You start to understand, oh, this is what conscious, purposeful motor looks like. This is what I want to coach and connect with. This is what I want to reinforce and grow with. But you have to understand that a lot of it isn't conscious and purposeful. Some of it is like, I'll see kids be very loving to their parents, and it's conscious and purposeful, and you can see it. It's not fast or momentous or any of that. So I don't want to say, oh, none of it is purposeful, but you become attuned to it when you work with it long enough and you understand that.
Yeah. So you need that experience, but you need the
Hmm.
experience in that frame of mind, you know? Like if you spent years interpreting everything a certain way, it's going to be hard to start to interpret some of the same motions and new activities and behaviors and expressions as different than how you've always
Dude,
done
that is the biggest thing right there. You're hitting it nail on the head because you have to unlearn every single relationship of your thoughts, your words, and your actions to what their body's doing and the way you've interpreted it because they're bound by your interpretation of them. And so you have to open up to a new perception of understanding what is their conscious motor and what's not, and connecting with them and who they are. That's why they say presume competence. If there's a 7-year-old, treat them like a 7-year-old. If it's a 17-year-old, treat them like a 17-year-old, because then you're starting to aim at who they are on the inside beyond their body, which is so important for progress.
it.
So important.
I don't know. To me, what I feel like is the craziest part of that whole thing is when you kind of take it out of like the context of autism and you think about connecting with any other person. It's like if somebody were to come up to you and meet you and they immediately started talking to you as if you didn't understand what language they spoke,
Yeah.
like you would feel so offended and alienated and you'd be like, no, not interested in
Yeah.
interacting with you at all. So, like, of course, why wouldn't you extend that same thing to a non-speaking autistic person, you know?
Especially because we know it affects motor function. If we know that these kids have apraxia, so all the muscles that happen instantaneously from in our throat and mouth for us to speak just happen, we didn't decide to do it. We know that they don't have access to that. And so wouldn't we question, well, maybe the way that, they're presenting isn't because they don't understand, it's because their bodies are different, right? There's that lack of motor function. When you start looking through that lens, you start connecting with them beyond words. You just know.
I would imagine that there's things that they've done forever, and then at a certain point you realize like, "Oh, this thing that they've done forever, they've actually been trying to tell me
Hmm.
this or do this."
Hmm.
Is that something that you've
Oh
seen
yeah,
often?
yeah. I have chills right now because I've seen that with all of my kids, and like I feel like sometimes I recognize after they'll like do something or spell something, and then after I'm like, oh, they were trying to tell me this, just the piece of kind of detangling your own conditioning and interpretation around them and
Oh,
how
okay.
important that is. Oh, here's the thing. These guys' bodies will go along with whatever the conditioning and the energy and the signal that's there. So, obviously, if you're a parent, you obviously have a long term relationship with your child since they were born.
Yeah.
It's like with your thoughts, words, and actions, it forms a relationship with their body and how their body responds. And so it's kind of like the situation playing out with your interpretation of them and what their body's going to give you. And then somebody new comes in, somebody who knows about presuming competence, somebody who knows I'm going to connect with the person inside and I'm going to not put interpretation on the body. And then all of a sudden it's like this new door has opened and this kid now has access to their purposeful motor. Like, because I'm prompting the right places, I'm prompting their eyes, I'm coaching their body. It's like, and then there's like a regulation piece. Like if I'm super regulated, not all the time, like Obviously, not all the time. And this is also, it's a practice, it's a work in progress. You always are practicing regulation. Their nervous system can kind of hook onto yours and connect with yours, and they can have more regulation and more access to their purposeful motor. Somebody might try with their child to spell for a long time, and then they hire me, and then their kid's able to spell in the first session. That vibration of belief and confidence is real, and it does allow the body to move forward. Like, think about whenever you feel super confident about something, you've done it a million times and you could just do it. But think about if you're like really down and out and you're really scared about it and you come out all shaky and it's all messed up. And you can control your motor. That goes to the acknowledging the energetic piece and how real it truly is. Yeah.
I think about like if you're somewhere where like music is playing and you don't like the music that much, you'll just stand there, you know?
Mhm.
But then if like a song comes on that like you feeling, like you'll just start like involuntarily moving. Like you're gonna be like in resonance with the music and it's gonna move you a certain way, you know? Same thing if you're like with somebody that again you're just not vibing with. Or if like you feel like like this just isn't like they don't care about me or whatever. I'm not trying to say that like a parent doesn't care about their
No,
kid.
yeah.
I don't mean that in any kind of way.
Mhm.
All I mean is like that acknowledgement piece. I mean, as kids, teenagers, whatever,
Mhm.
your parents will tell you something, you're like, no, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
do it just because you're saying that, you know?
Yeah.
So maybe there's some of that going on
Oh,
too,
I'm
who knows?
sure. They're
But
also like typical kids on the inside too. They
yeah.
really are.
But if you come in with a certain way, you know, you're gonna more likely hit that music that you like kind of feeling, which is like, oh yeah, now I can much more easily get into the groove of what's going on and what I'm being asked
Oh,
to do
so
or
true.
what the situation is calling for.
That is so true. And, if you're a parent and the spelling isn't working at the moment, like with you, that's okay. Like, that's okay. I wouldn't even push it, give it a break. Maybe look for some support where you can start to address those energetic blocks if you're ready. If you're not ready, to me, that's okay. Like, give yourself
You're
grace.
saying your own personal energetic blocks.
Yeah, your own personal energetic blocks if it's not working. Now, if you have the energy to be like, yeah, we're doing this and stay consistent, then do that, right? If the vibes are not right, it's not going to work. And it just won't.
But we had this conversation a little bit either this morning or yesterday, where sometimes though you have to try, even if the vibes aren't right.
Mhm.
So then you can start to understand when the vibes are right, or how to switch
Oh,
into a
yeah.
different mode. You can start to recognize when that's where that switch is.
Right, because there's gonna be a point where you're strong in your stableness of energy. It's like you have a strong groundedness around you, and you're gonna be like pulling them into your orbit of like awareness of this is our spelling bubble. Because let me say we're talking about spelling and letterboard,
Yeah.
and it's okay to be off of that. Like sometimes you need to try and you need to be off of it so you can then see what does it feel like to be on. And this is the type of stuff that I coach parents with too. One other thing I wanted to mention about the vibes being right, if it's not working with a practitioner, try another one because the vibes at that moment might not be right
Yeah, I'm
you
sure
know
I'm sure you've got some examples about kids who maybe have like difficult bodies and maybe they're being asked to do a certain thing
Mhm.
and like they won't do it or they won't sit still. But whenever you come in and start the spelling process, you see it happen. I don't know if you got any cool stories about that kind of thing.
I mean, and this is the type of stuff that I feel like I love to support parents with because it's really just a quick, easy shift. Because it's like they spend all this time thinking that their kid doesn't want to because they're not coming sit down or they're running away or whatever. What you do is you get really strong in your muscle of presuming competence and you walk in and you directly speak to them as if they want to do this. Hey, I'm so excited to connect with you today. We're going to be reading about this today. I'm going to go ahead and read this paragraph. And when I'm done, I want you to start thinking about initiating your body to come sit in the spelling chair so we can do this. When you're putting the energy there, you're feeding it in the right direction and you're giving them more courage and confidence to actually do this. Because believe me, they want to do this. Like they want to do this. If it ever seems like they don't want to, there's probably some energy that needs to be, like I said, moved, transmuted. But if you go in there with that belief, which is something it takes time to build up. So, yeah, I have a client who's just like this. It looks like he's not listening, right? He's walking around, he's OCDing around, the house and it looks like he wouldn't be listening. He is 100%. And when I'm done reading, he'll come walk right over and sit down. And if he doesn't, like if he's stuck in a lap or a loop, I'll say, hey, I see that you're stuck in a loop. So you're acknowledging what you're seeing. You're understanding that it's hard for them to get out of it. And you say, I'll give you like a countdown. Let's see if you can get your body here by 1. And I want you to tune into any cue you have, your feet on the floor, whatever you can be purposeful about. And then I give them a countdown. And I mean, 9 times out of 10, they come. So it's connecting with that person inside. It's letting them know that you're confident in them, but you're also embodying that.
Yeah.
And when you embody that strong signal of attraction, it's going to attract them. And
Yeah.
and it's teaching people how to be, like I said, truly confident, truly in capital T trust and capital F faith, because you're having faith that this person who looks like they're not listening, this person
Yeah.
who's jumping up and down or whatever, that they're with you. And they are. Yeah.
That's good stuff. I feel like we're breaking down a good bit of lots of different things. And this series is supposed to be like future of,
Yeah.
care,
This is supposed to
therapy,
be
schools,
episode
whatever it
1
is
future. Yeah.
for what non-speaking autistic people need. And I think we spent a lot of time talking about like the caregiver, parent, communication partner, their perception and awareness of what's going on. And that's ultimately like step number one for the future.
Yeah.
For like people to recognize that the way that we look at this, our model of understanding this needs to shift.
Yeah.
And we need to recognize that we're not just trying to achieve better like behaviors. We're
Mhm.
trying to connect with people, like real people who are there, regardless of what and there's other things,
Yes.
like just biologically, physiologically, nervous system wise, that we also need to come around to start to understand, and not just alone by itself, but as a holistic, like integrated model of what you're trying to achieve, what's actually going on.
100%. And that's why I want to do this podcast series to
What's that?
talk about this, riff on this, what we do all the time, what we talk about all the time, and get people to enroll their energy in this vision, you know? And I really like what you said and wanted to point out what you said about the difference between the old model paradigm and new model paradigm of what I'm really wanting to achieve here in the future. You said that with these kids, instead of trying to like modify behavior, reinforce behavior, increase it, decrease it, instead of that, which I feel energy very deeply now, and there's a certain energy around everything. The energy around that is manipulation. It's not intentional, and there's so many people in the field of old paradigm who are amazing. I know that. I've worked with so many of them, but it's like this manipulation energy. So these kids don't, a lot of times, unless they're paired up with a therapist that they're connected with, well, they feel unsafe. They don't feel trust. And so what we're moving to is, like you said, connecting with the human so we can build trust. It's like going from less distortion, more safety, and I mean all the other things you mentioned with nervous system and all that. But like, yeah, the first foundational thing is like, obviously this was old paradigm and we're moving a new paradigm.
Yeah, the problem isn't just with how like education or therapy or whatever is done with non-speaking autistic kids and adults and that population. The problem is with the regular everyday educational system and the way of thinking there. And that bleeds over into this population, and the issues are just become
They're
way
just
bigger.
yeah, they're just amplified because these aren't kids who can just step in line and do what you say like a neurotypical kid. These are kids whose bodies they can't control. So it can get very out of hand. There's some things that I see in the school system and I've seen that I really, really don't like.
Again, this is true for
This is true
neurotypical
for new. I
education
mean,
systems too,
our
you
kid
know?
does not go to a typical school. I'm not trying to put shame in any way. It just is not right for us. And to me, it doesn't align with my values and what I want to see for the future. So, like you said,
But it's the same thing when we're talking about like instead of trying to modify behavior, you're
mhm,
trying to connect with the human. Like that's what a regular education system should be as well. It's
yes,
recognizing that there is like the school that it's an acting academy type of school. If you never heard of it, look it up. Might be one near you. If you have kids, fantastic in our opinion.
it
I don't know.
is.
We
It's
love it.
fantastic.
And they're like main like base ethos is they recognize that every kid is a genius.
Yeah,
And to trust the kid with their own education is like the most beautiful and cool thing of all time.
yeah.
So for that type of thing to grow more in the regular standard educational system would be awesome, and that can bleed more into an alternative way to address the non-speaking autistic community as well.
Absolutely. Number one is connecting with the person on the side. But, looking at these kids for the needs that they have, you know? If we're going to put our energy where it actually would move forward and matters, it's training purposeful movement. It's regulating the nervous system. You know, a lot of times, like what we were saying, these kids have this practiced nervous system of fight or flight because that's just their life. They're so highly sensitive. So if we can bring them to the place where they spend the most time, and this is my dreaming for the future, right? Like a school or a center or both. It's like their whole day is centered around feeding their nervous system with regulation, reinforcing muscle memory of complete regulation, you know, instead of practiced dysregulation and being in fight or
Yeah.
flight or flee all the time. That way they can train coaches and teachers training more conscious control over the body, the brain actually changing to be able to keep those pathways stable to, you know, translate in the body every day. Like that's what I want for these kids because I just feel for them so hard. Like this, I mean, obviously this is my calling. This is what's been on my heart and mind for years now. And we're at the point where it's like, yeah, got to start talking about it, got to start committing to talking about it all the time. Yeah, yeah. And a lot of people have their sights set on just what they're doing now, but a little bit better. And it's like, no, we need to get people on board with what's actually best, you know, and this is what I can see is best, in my opinion. And it doesn't feel like it has to be so hard. We just need the right people.
Yeah, and you know, you talk about like a center or like a school, and that's gonna be great, but that's gonna take time. Where all of this starts really is though in the families, with the parents, with like small communities all over the place.
It does. It does. And that's what I talked about in one of my last classes for parents. It talked about, you know, what we want for your kids hasn't been created yet.
Mhm.
And we're being called to step up into our power and our intuition where we know what needs to happen and we're unshakable in our power and we know what we accept and what we don't accept and then we're moving forward from there. So we're going to attract people who enroll in that vision as well. I see so many people like fighting for something, fighting for something. It's like, you know what? We actually hate the way shit is and we're going to create something new.
Mhm.
That's what I'm doing with my business. You know, I didn't agree with the way things are being done and I wanted to create a system to honor the child. And I want to see that on a larger scale. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just feel like in me, I have so much energy around it, and I probably need to let it come out and like so it can simmer and I can be more, you know, direct and potent. But got to start somewhere. Got to reboot somewhere.
Yeah.
And so again, my name is Eileen, and I'm the owner of a company called EnPhase, In Tune with Autism, serving the non speaking autistic population, utilizing the letter boards and purposeful movement training, nervous system regulation. And I also coach parents in this arena.
I'm Blake. I'm a chiropractor. I'm Eileen's husband. Almost said wife. Yeah, that's it. You know,
Yeah,
I mean, new, different paradigm is what I feel like has been on my mind and our minds for a very long time.
very long time.
I feel like I'm chronically recognizing how much we just don't know anything
Mhm.
about anything. And the more I learn, the more I realize that that's just incredibly true any and everywhere. I can go on a long spiel about my stuff and what I think is wrong with everything.
You can do
But
that. We can always edit it out if we
that's
need
not
to.
what this is about though,
No.
you know?
Me and Blake,
Yeah, I
a
mean,
lot of Saturdays we spend tea like dreaming for the future,
I wanna
right?
clarify too
Yeah.
that I know what the right thing is. When a lot of this, like talking about projecting into the future, it's experimental. It's like, hey, here's some ideas. Anybody who's listening, if any of this resonates with you, encourage obviously think about it on your own, reflect on this stuff. We'll be reflecting and refining thoughts and ideas and all this stuff. I
Well,
mean, we talk about
I
it all the
do
time
feel like I
already.
know a better world that can happen. So
Yeah,
it's not like me just throwing like I
yeah.
believe in these
I
ideas.
think we all
Yeah.
know for
Yeah.
sure. It's
Mhm.
just like converting it into words
Yeah.
and into ideas that are digestible without drawing the lines too hard,
Yeah.
but also not having the lines be so vague that it doesn't look like anything. You know,
Right.
it's tough. We're like at the beginning, the root level of a new paradigm. It's a new model, you know, and
Mhm.
models need to be flexible. They need to be open, but also cohesive. You know.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll get into in the next couple of episodes more refined topics. One topic I do want to just riff on dreaming about this
what a school would look like and what I think it should have, which we talked about
Yeah.
before. I would like to talk about in this series of Dreaming for the Future.
Would like to encourage any listeners to send us like what do you
Yeah.
think is important, you know? Get on Eileen's EnPhase's social medias, put some comments on
Mhm.
things about like, hey, what do you think? What are your opinions, your ideas? If you got any
Yeah.
questions for
Questions.
Eileen or anything like that,
Mhm.
you know? Or what topics you
Yeah.
want to see her talk about, that would be good.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely message me. And yeah, TikTok, I'll put it in the show notes. And then I think Instagram is EnPhase and Tune. Like I said, dreaming for the school. Another one would be talking about just being in tune with autism, which, whole nother episode on why I named it that. And it's just so crazy how back then I had no idea how meaningful that name would be. And so like being in tune, being in synergy, and then another one, putting our energy where it matters with these kids where they can actually make progress. So yeah, we'll get to those things. Thank you for being here today, and I look forward to our next podcast.
Yes.
Message me on social media
Cool.
if you would like to work with me.